Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament 2020. We have another match this week. We're in week 3 now between TeknoLink and HamDenBlinde. I'm joined by Ralen. How's it going?
I probably should not mute myself if I want to start talking, but hey SEJay, and yeah, I have had a good afternoon, and I'm excited to see what our runners are going to do this week. They do not have a mentor around this time, so they now have to bring out everything they soaked up these past 2 weeks and do it all on their own.
Yeah, week 3 of the Mentor Tournament. Bit of a twist. No mentors during the runs, giving the runners a bit of a chance to see what they've learned from their mentors in the past 2 weeks from the Ambrosia Seeds and kind of putting it all out there on their own and seeing how they do. This is still an Ambrosia week, starting in week 4. I think we're switching to open, but Ambrosia is standard opening, sword assured. Uncle will give us a hint on where the boots are. It is just a 7-7 defeat Ganon. Should be a lot of fun.
Yep, there is still one caveat to all of this, because in Ambrosia, of course, all of our bosses do not have a dungeon item, so one of our items will always be on the boss. No big key, no small key, no map, no compass. So this does influence routing still a bit in those dungeons. But next week in open there will be just the most basic form of randomizer then happening. But that's next week. So
do you have a preference? I personally am not, I feel like Ambrosia always gets me because with the required item on bosses, pendant dungeons become a little bit more important, I feel, in Ambrosia. Because you can't just dip, say, Eastern Palace, find the 3 items and leave if it's a pendant. You have to stick around and you do have to kill those bosses.
I think in the end I prefer open because most Ambrosia seeds I played turned out to be not kind. And the 2 seeds I mentored on turned out to be not kind. So
I definitely agree with you there. As we start up, we see that the boots are in Death Mountain. So Uncle heading out, both of our runners underway. Anything specific you're looking for? Anything you want to?
I'm not looking for something especially. I'm more interested in seeing how much of knowledge our runners did eventually pick up. Because one interesting thing that could all happen pretty close to right now, actually, because on the standard seed we of course want to have bombs at some point for back of escape, and it will be interesting to see if we are in need of trying to farm those from enemies, and if our runners maybe remember enough about the prize packs to say how much they have to kill or not, because that are bombs on the guards, so no bomb problems this time around.
Yeah, that's a prize pack you definitely want to see in a standard opening. Pretty much guaranteed bombs for both the runners. Ham will have to kill a few more guards to find that drop, but probably will happen.
50% chance on dropping something on each enemy, so first time HamDenBlinde does win that coin flip, he will be rewarded with bomb, and this is happening right now. Of course, having this knowledge, you can also plan to farm a little bit ahead. If you want to have guaranteed bombs for Kakariko, you can do it.
Yeah, is it the 3rd or the 4th drop is a 4-bomb drop? That's a really nice one to find to get you all the bombs you need for Kakariko.
It's the 4th one, so 2 single bombs more common, and then there's the 4 bomb pack. If you get all those, you have 7 bombs to start out with. That should be enough to get you through the first 10 minutes. Even if you do not find any bombs in Kakariko at all.
Both of our runners making their way through escape. Pretty close to one another, just doing the standard. You got to go to the basement, rescue Zelda, and then escape through the sewers. In standard opening, you are guaranteed to have the lamp for that back sewer room. Even if you don't actually have the lamp, you'll still get that light cone. So that is a nice little addition that's been put into the randomizer for these standard opens.
And we also got already our first item, which is the blue boomerang. Being in one of the chests, you can find it in the vanilla game. Which is always kind of interesting if it does happen. And we have now an item to stun enemies and even check the price tag if we want to, say, try and look for ways to farm money, or maybe later in the game check for maybe health on the stun price, some form. We will see.
Yeah, health and money are good prize or stun prizes to find, I think. You will also get bombs, arrows. You can pretty much get any drop that's in the game, but if you can find that the stun prize is 20 rupees or a heart or fairies or even full magic, that can be really helpful throughout the run.
Our run is now on the way back. TeknoLink did manage to get a little bit of an advantage here, saving a few seconds here and there. But this is, of course, still very early in the seed. Can very easily turn around later.
Yeah, as I will kind of think about this, knowing that the hint of the boots are on Death Mountain, that could cause some interesting choices for routing of going up to Death Mountain early, maybe if you get the glove but no lamp or don't have hook shot, just to check to see if you can find those boots, maybe on Spectacle Rock or something like that, because those boots are very, very desired, highly desired items, and one of the things that Ambrosia does by telling you where the boots are can cause some unusual routing choices to happen to try to find those boots.
Definitely. That will be interesting to see, although with going up with only the glove is kind of an risky play still, because you can just check a few checks. You can turn an old man and check inside of Spectacle Rock. But getting to those boots is probably not something you can bank on that with just a glove, so maybe just waiting to at least get the hookshot or hammer and mirror so you can check East of Mountain. And then hoping that the boots are not on the tablet.
Yeah, that's probably, I think, the one place you don't want to find them, unless you do find the book early. And with the hook shot, that does open up a higher desire to go up to that Death Mountain area once we find a glove or a flute. Assuming that these runners know how to do that dark room. Very nice item to find early. It does allow you to go a little bit faster if you know how to use it. You can hook shot onto a lot of different things in the overworld. So nice item to find, as well as a way to stun. Works in Mini Moldorm Cave. Just overall a very helpful item.
Yeah, finding an early hookshot is probably one of the best things that can happen to you, aside from finding the boots, because it's just so versatile and does allow you to do a lot of stuff. You don't have to go on a hookshot hunt late into the seed. It can sometimes be very annoying. So yeah.
Yeah, I know there's only a few locations. They're kind of out of the way where you need the hookshot, be it Swamp Palace or Hookshot Cave. Those are just kind of places that you'd like to have the hookshot the first time you go there. And we do seem to have a little bit of a split. HamDenBlinde is going to go check the Lumberjack Cave, TeknoLink going straight to the Mushroom location.
Yeah, this checking Lumberjack at this point is not something you see that often in standard modes, just because most of the runners, after having already done the standard escape and gotten bombs, money and such, opt to not immediately check Lumberjack. But yeah, if there were to be up there something and you get that information early, you may get an advantage in how you will route the seed later on. But that heart container that was up there, probably not enough of an incentive to do Agar. So
Yeah, and
not
we do
paying
find the
today.
lamp in the forest here. As TeknoLink is going to head down to the Kakariko area. Lots of items here. You've got 5 items in Blind's hut. You got 4 items in the well. Both the runners have enough money to check the bottle vendor, so hoping to find a bottle or the flute while you're here, but definitely able to do the normal Kakariko check. As we find a glove as well, so we now have glove, lamp, and hook shot. So that Death Mountain play could be very tempting to try to go find those boots now.
Yeah. So since you are already in Kakariko, you are going to finish it, doing all these checks. But it wouldn't surprise me to see at least one runner immediately try to head up the mountain after doing or checking race game to try and snatch early boots they can. We get a map check, 2 regular crystals on Hera and Desert, and a blue pendant, I believe, on Eastern Palace.
Yeah, with that crystal up on Hera, you would like to have a way to get over there, be it the hammer or the mirror, if you're going to go up to Death Mountain to check for boots. We'll see if we find that item or if either of the runners kind of put off Death Mountain until they're able to go check that.
Well, not having much ready. So we're just continuing here. Hoping to maybe find something more.
And the Moon Pearl is a great find. That's one of those required Dark World items, so we're just a hammer or the Titan's Mitts away from being able to go to the Dark World without having to do Aghanim.
On the other hand, we are just one sword or cape away from being able to do Aghanim, so...
This is very true.
This is still somewhat open in both ways.
Well, and Mitts doesn't guarantee Aghanims out of the picture either, because without flippers, you aren't logically able to get over to the Palace of Darkness area, I don't believe. So even if we find Mitts, Aga isn't completely off the table.
Also, with no knowledge about the red crystals yet, well, there is still the pyramid that could hold on to a very specific item, in which case this would become a very, very mean thing. But we will see.
I mean, it is a restream, so worse has happened.
So TeknoLink done with Kakariko, and yep, that looks like we are going to see that player straight up the mountain, which is fully in logic, so definitely not blaming anyone here.
Yeah, I think this is exactly what I would do. You know the boots are on Death Mountain. You have the hookshot now to check a lot of things up there. Even if you go up there and see that the boots are on top of Spectacle Rock, you at least know then, okay, I need the mirror and I can go get the boots. And beat Hera, whenever that may be. So even if the boots are in an unfortunate location, you get that knowledge and that information, which at this point is worth it.
Also, while you're doing all this, you're also unlocking the save and quit point, or the starting point at the Old Man Cave, so you can return here even faster. So, yeah, definitely good thing to just get it out of the way.
And it looks like HamDenBlinde is following right in TeknoLink's footsteps, going right up the mountain as well.
See what our old man holds on, and those are boots. So yeah, definitely good decision made here by both players to make this heat a little bit faster.
Now, TeknoLink doing some sword dashes to try to get super speed. You can also do that with the hookshot, and it appears that he doesn't know that. But if you tap boots and hookshot at the same time while on the stairs, it'll also give you that super speed. It's a little bit more of a consistent way to set it up over the sword spin method.
is a bit easier, a bit more consistent to set up, but requires you to menu to that hookshot, which is not optimal if you can do that spin setup perfectly. But yeah, still. Knowing that you can do it with the hookshot still does save you quite a bit of time to do so. We have now Paradox Cave with 7 more items to check for us. Hello Mirror, we can now do Tower of Hera.
Yeah, mirror being a very important item to find there. Have everything to full clear Hera if we want to, as well as finding Ether, which might be important later. Hera is one of those dungeons that can be really, really quick, or if the fire locked room is required, can be very, very slow. So always kind of hoping for a faster Hera. We now have the Hera pot minor glitch, which allows you to get upstairs even quicker. Be interested to see if either of the runners try that.
Yeah, definitely an option here. Check of floating island reveals a bottle with a fairy, which we obviously cannot get to at the moment, but if we do not find a bottle somewhat soon, we at least know where to get one if we want to. And the second medallion in the Quake medallion being found here. This is always the thing that makes me wonder, okay, are those both useless medallions and we are supposed to find bombos, or why do I get 2 so early?
Yeah, and personally, those are my... If I find 2, I want to find Bombos as one of the 2, because Bombos at least opens up Ice Palace to full clear. So finding those 2, maybe you're hoping that that's what you need and you don't have to go on a Bombos hunt, but it always does kind of weigh in the back of your mind a little bit.
We did now get to see the folk speed used by TeknoLink, so maybe just forgot on it the first time. And Dark World map check, Green Pendant, Skullwoods, Pendant, Palace of Darkness, and Turtle Rock and Ice Palace as our red crystals.
HamDenBlinde needing to be careful here. Going back up Paradox Cave with only 1 heart.
Is now not risking checking floating island.
And I think that was the big key in the basement of Hera, or in the cage room of Hera, not the basement.
Yep.
So that's a nice item to find. Remember, in Ambrosia, the boss is guaranteed to have an item. So we're just looking for 1 item in Tower of Hera, and then we can go right to Moldorm.
Looks like we are going to see a Hera pot here from TeknoLink. Does not get it on the first try. Using a setup that sadly is dependent on subpixels, so you have to move in a specific way to get it. And that's not something everybody does know about the setup. So let's see if it works this time. Does not look like it. And deciding to just do Hera the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, and I didn't notice during the setup that Hera pot can also be thrown off by picking up the mini Moldorm item before it stops bouncing. I didn't check to see if that was the case, but that's something that can kind of mess up that setup.
Oh,
we do have a bit of a split, as Ham decides to go down and check South Shore instead of going to Tower of Hera right off the bat.
I can get behind it, as it looks like our second item in Hera is unfortunately down in the basement, in the tire room. So no luck today here with Ambrosia and Hera.
At least it's not the big key in the basement. Being able to check that big chest your first time up and not having to come back up the second time is a little bit of a nice thing, but we'll have to look in that basement for sure to see what that second item is.
And on the other hand, South Shore not really having something for us right now. Minimal Drum Cave, a few hearts, but otherwise somewhat empty. And yeah, we are soon running out of locations to go to fight our next progression. So maybe we have to go over to the eastern area.
And TeknoLink unfortunately getting knocked down into that center hole, which does drop you 2 floors. I think that Fighter Storm Moldorm is probably a lot of people like pretty high on their rankings of least favorite fights to do. In fact, might have even played a role in why Ham decided to not do Tower of Hera until finding an upgraded sword or a hammer.
Yeah, definitely. Fighter Sword Moldorm can sometimes be really, really mean. And it's or even in vanilla speedruns, this exact fight with this equipment can sometimes be a run killer because this fight is just that awful. Yeah, so I do not blame anyone to trying to put off that fight if they can reasonably do it. Because just even having a cape or a Cane of Burner to make her invincible for the last enraged phase in Moldorm can make this fight easier. Yeah, TeknoLink still trying again on the last hit and falls again. Oh, this is painful.
There is a little bit of a technique that you can try to use, which if you hold your sword in the direction opposite of the edge of the pit, when Moldorm runs into you, it will keep you kind of, if you're on the edge of the pit holding the opposite direction with your sword out, it'll keep you from falling down as Moldorm hits you a bunch of times, but it's somewhat difficult to get comfortable with, and it feels very unsafe while you're doing it. But that 6th phase, often I just hug the wall and hope that my sword poke will hit that tail and finish the fight off for me. Because again, this is not a easy fight, especially with the limited items that they have at this point.
And also, being down on 1 heart now, if Moldorm does hit TeknoLink, he will actually die, which is something you are not used to in the Moldorm fight, but it can definitely happen this early in the game.
Nicely done.
Does get it done, so is rewarded with an item and our first crystal of the seed. Item being 300 rupees. Probably not what he was hoping for, but still. Having those rupees,
playing a little bit of Ring Around the Rosie with the chest there, but does get the bonk off to head up to Moldorm.
Yeah, having those rupees we got also is somewhat nice in the sense that you don't really need to worry about paying off Zora anymore, or having not enough money to do anything that requires money at this point.
As we see Ham, so Ham just did what I was trying to explain earlier and did a much better job showing it than I probably did explaining it. That if you hold your sword out and Moldorm is coming towards you, you can hug the wall there. So very well done. as Ham is now on the enraged stage of the Moldorm fight.
And does get it done, so yeah. Being a little bit behind here in Tower Ferry maybe, but haven't done already South Shore, so yeah, already made up some of the time difference we saw there earlier in the seed. And unfortunately our second item in Hera being only Harpies means we probably have to go to Eastern, or at least checking out Sahasrara's little closet.
Ham taking a second to debate on whether or not he wanted to do the basement, decides to do it. As TeknoLink goes and is going to give us the Bonk Rocks check.
Giving us our first bottle of the seed that we can get to, after knowing that there's one on Lumberjack, and does save and quit here, which I'm not really sure.
Uh-oh.
Why, because you could have just continued and just turned in that bottle to sick it, but yeah, I think I get what you mean. Does look like, yeah, did get stuck there in the tile room in Hera.
Surprising, or luckily for Ham, that actually will save him some time, because we know that that item is nothing really that you need.
Yep. A blessing in disguise, but it will be now in the back of his mind for quite some time.
TeknoLink using the ether in that mini Moldorm room. Don't blame him there. That room can be a bit of a pain, especially without sword beams and using the hookshot. Those mini Moldorms like to run around and really mess with you. So, I like the use of medallions in that room, even though they take a little bit of time. Sometimes they're quicker, especially if you're not comfortable with using the hookshot in that room.
Yeah, definitely good display of game knowledge there, and you are saying they do take quite a bit of time. Using ether does actually does not take that much time. So if you are not doing very good hookshot strats, or even just trying to fight with the fighter sword, the use of the ether medallion might just break even with about all of the other strategies.
And Ham finding the Master Sword in Agina's cave, so we really only have Sahasrara and Eastern before Aga becomes the play.
And this is something that I don't think you should do in this situation, but Ham is apparently deciding to go back and check that chest in Hera before even doing Eastern. Apparently really wanting to avoid Haga at this point, but it is a somewhat interesting option now, because we have the Moon Pearl, and with Hookshot and Glove we can do quite a bit in the Dark World already. But that will not find us the Ice Rod, because that was just in Waterfall Ferry.
Yeah, I can see both kind of ways of thinking about this. You know, you don't want that item to weigh on your mind for the entire seed, so you just want to get it out of the way. But at the same time, it's one item, and you've got so much more to check. You know, maybe you really don't want to do Aga, and you're thinking that maybe this was the item that would keep you from having to climb that tower. But this is, you know, not a great, you know, feeling to have in this exact moment, especially because Ham could have just mirrored and retried if that was the plan the first time here.
Yeah, so maybe just forgetting that Eastern is actually an area that is still open to check. It sometimes can happen early on that you are not thinking about some checks, because you just are thinking about what this all could be. Yeah. unfortunately this time this play not paying off.
Yeah, so we saw a piece of heart on the ledge, Zora's ledge, or a full heart, sorry, not a piece of heart. Not much else other than that ice rod in Waterfall Cave. So, though that's a good item to find because we will have to do Turtle Rock this seed. Yeah, it's just TeknoLink going to check that Eastern Palace area, and if there's nothing here, you don't really have a choice.
Yep, of course, his initial hope there was just find some sort of Dark World access in form of mids or hammer, but yeah, getting that ice rod this early can be deceptively strong.
And there are the Titan's mitts.
But because if the seed does give you most items very early on and this turns into an ice rod hunt, yeah, you could easily spend a few minutes there looking for it and place it that it wasn't or it wasn't. So getting ice rod early is always a good thing. And now with mids have a dark world access, yeah, probably just following those, leaving Eastern behind for now.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, that doesn't necessarily mean that logically Aga 1 is dead, because we don't have a logical way to access the Palace of Darkness area, but there's a couple of ways you can get around that with fake flippers and splash deletion. So out of logic, we can get everywhere. You don't have to do Aga this seed.
And with the boots also, we do have the option of setting up a water walk over in Skull Woods to even just get over to the east Dark World. So if you wanted to skip Aga if it were logically required, you have all the means you would need for it.
So a bit of a split here. TeknoLink deciding to go into Dark Village with the mitts, while Ham decides to go up to Death Mountain to check the Dark Death Mountain area. I kind of like the Dark Death Mountain play because you know you're probably going to have to climb twice because you have very little for Turtle Rock anyway. You have the hook shot to check Hookshot Cave. You can see what medallion Turtle Rock needs. And if you find the hammer when you go back to the village, you can full clear Thieves Town. So I like this play by Ham of going to the mountain first.
Yeah, definitely some advantages to it if you find something here. On the other hand, it means that you're probably isolating Spike Cave and the Ether Tablet if you were to find Book soon or the hammer at some point. So if there's some progression in there, this could be probably certain HamDenBlinde here. But yeah, getting 6 more items here, getting knowledge about access to Turtle Rock if you check the medallion. Definitely can see this being a decision made, and that is the hammer there.
That is a nice find. We do not have... Ooh, and the bow. So Hookshot Cave having great items. That is a place that TeknoLink is going to want to get to soon. We'll see if Ham decides to go and check the mirror item. Looks like he is going to because he did not check that ledge earlier on.
And will thus get a bottle with a variant, which is a nice safety to have. And on the other side, TeknoLink deciding to just clear Thieves Town here, hoping that there is nothing in the big chest. And
now,
just hope there isn't.
Even with this bottle with a fairy, I don't think Ham has enough hearts to check Spike Cave.
He actually might, because the invincibility frames you get after dying are actually quite does give you an actually quite large time of invincibility. So in addition to the 7 hearts it restores, that time should be enough to make it, or to enable you to do Spy Cave if you want to force it. So Varian is deceptively more powerful than just a red potion there.
Yeah, and deciding not to head over that way, you would also have to get past those Lionels, which on green mail is not a very fun game to play. If you had Temper Sword, a little bit easier, but understand wanting to have nothing to do with those. You've got your hammer, head to Thieves Town, you know, and you've got your bow. You can route in Pod at the end of this really nicely if you'd like to, even though Pod and Eastern both are pendants. But what would you do? You know, you've got Pod and Eastern are both pendants. Obviously, you're going to check everything on the way there. But with a bow, you know, that's a lot of checks that even with pendants, you know, is probably worth it to go and do. You've got Mirror, so you can check them both out. You know, you're obviously hoping to find something in this kind of Dark World walk where we go to Thieves Town and over to Hype Cave. But, yeah, I mean, it kind of weighs on your mind, at least it would on mine.
It definitely depends on what we are finding here inside Thieves Town. Getting the smoke here in this cell, so I didn't really pay attention to if there is an item in the big chest.
Yeah, I have not seen. Maybe TeknoLink will menu and we'll be able to check to see if that compass and map is have both been found. If that is the case, then there is a item in that big chest.
Oh, and oh, that was a really unfortunate combo of enemy hits and fall into the pit there. Getting 1.0, I believe, there, dying because of getting hit while falling.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Unfortunate time was here.
As we get to a point where TeknoLink's running back to grab blind and Ham is clearing some checks we've already seen, I'd like to take a second to thank our tracker, McMonkey, for tracking all the items for us, and Restreamer, Amarith, for restreaming this seed. You know, without them kind of doing the behind-the-scenes stuff, none of this would happen. So I just want to say thank you to our tracker, thank you to our Restreamer, and thank you, Ralen, for joining me, you know, as we kind of go through this.
It's a pleasure for me to work here, and this set up to be a very interesting race here, as TeknoLink does try to get back to the basement to grab the maiden a second time here. Has at least not walk up to the attic anymore, so can just hit the switch here and walk back.
Yeah, Ham's routing up to this point, very advantageous. Having the Master Sword for the Thieves Town, though blind doesn't matter, having it for some of these rooms is very helpful. And then on top of that, having that fairy in a bottle, so you have that extra safety for blind as you go through the dungeon, which is nice to have.
But to get back to your question, if we were not to find anything helping us out here on the way in Thieves Town, then in Hype Cave, yeah, at this point in Ham's or with Ham's equipment, I would definitely for sure check out Pod, because yeah, 5 items to grab there, 3 more in Eastern. There has to be something there if Hype Cave does turn out to be empty. This time TeknoLink does manage to get the maiden into the boss room, which then turns into our boss for this dungeon. And blind fight, if you know it, being scripted, and TeknoLink does do a good first phase, but then unfortunately gets hit, so loses the script, and that makes the fight quite a bit harder, because this movement of the blind heads shooting fireballs everywhere can be sometimes really annoying. Down to 2 hearts already. Oh.
Yeah, once blind moves to the bottom of that room, all bets are off. You have to, be looking at 20 things at once, it feels like, with all of the beams and the heads flying around and where blind's at. It's not a fun situation to be in once he starts moving.
And worst part of it, now restarting that fight, you don't even get a chance to do the script anymore if you do not decide to take an additional round trip and recapture or recollect the maiden. Because now blind starts on the top of the room, so this is probably a situation no runner really wants to be in.
Yeah, personally, here, since they have the mirror, if you mirror, you can go down to the shop in the light world and buy a red potion. And that's a little safety that I think a lot of people, even myself at times, forget exists. And it looks like that's exactly what TeknoLink might be doing, or checking Sick Kid. But if you go into that shop, you can get a red potion, which does help with that blind fight a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And even if you are not going to grab that at this point, going down to Hype Cave, doing digging game, and
just finding the blue cane in the hammer chest. So though not a required item to complete the seed, definitely will help with this blind fight. Because that blue cane does damage to blind.
Yep, also it does grant invincibility, so if you do it well, you can just use that cane to fight blind without any sort of danger. Looks like... Oop, trying to set up the script, but a bit too eager, walking into blind there, but with the fairy still in the back pocket. No harm done here, really.
No, and once you get past that first phase, you can definitely use the blue cane for the last 2 phases. And looking like Ham maybe trying to save it here, but I personally would just phase 3 go. Yep, straight into blue cane for safety.
Round 3 for TeknoLink, this time with an additional red potion. Oh. So have to use it already. But does have a bit better movement there this time and does get it done. So now getting also that second crystal and the 20 rupees consolation prize. I wonder on TeknoLink's side if he might just re-buy that potion, because without a bow, if you were to find the hammer and then maybe move on to pot in Hype Cave, you might get locked out of pot, but with the potion you would have the ability to do a potion glitch.
Yeah, looks like heading up to check Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb here. Maybe go over to the potion shop here to buy potions. It's a little bit cheaper, but we're not really stressed out on money right now. TeknoLink has not checked Catfish, neither has Ham, but Ham will get to check the Zora area with Catfish, so that'll be a nice little bonus as we find half magic, so that's a nice item to find.
Definitely. fortunately for TeknoLink, he still does not really have something to use that with, aside from the Ice Rod, but that's not of too much use outside of its boss fight. There are some nice strategies you can do with the Ice Rod, and you can use it as a weapon against landmolars, but we are still quite a bit away from getting to Landmo, so yeah. Nice for later, but nothing that helps immediately. Inside we have the Swift Chain happening right now on the Hammer Packs.
Yeah, just a piece of heart on the Smith Chain and in King's Tomb, so nothing too crazy. It looks like we're going to get a look at Bumper Ledge to see what that item is. Oh, it's the fetch quest. It's the beginning of the fetch quest. You have to find Cape to find Shovel, and where does that lead?
That's something of the sort regarding I hope to never find that cape at all, because I don't have to worry about it. But we will see. I'd imagine TeknoLink is probably going to check out Skullwood's front next. Skullwoods in Ambrosia is always a dungeon that is not really wanted to be dipped in, because you know that there is at least one of the two items guaranteed to be on Mothula, which means it's fire rod locked. And there is a chance that the second one is also, so going in here sometimes may just be a complete waste of time, but in this position, not having found the hammer, no way to logically access East Dark World. I can't see doing this check, because yeah, if you leave something behind here, it would be just hurt you. Fortunately, though, just 50 rupees.
Usually more of a fan of checking Skullwoods when you get Dark World access via the Titan's Myths, just because without the hammer you are a little bit more restricted in what you can check, so there's a slightly more important chance that or higher chance that something might be there. But still, with all of Dark Death Mountain, I think TeknoLink just wants to clear out. Maybe doesn't want to climb back up Dark Death Mountain until, Book, or, some invulnerability item to clear more of it out. As we have Ham checking out Hype Cave.
That is a Fire Rod and a Cane of Somaria.
And Blue Mail. Okay, that's probably one of the best Hype Caves I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it does happen once in a while. So it's still a 5-item check here. And yeah. Fire Rod, Somaria, definitely items you want to see. Also, with the knowledge of Turtle Rock being Quake Medallion, we actually know at this point that it would be full clearable. HamDenBlinde or just would have to find that Ice Rod, which is flipper locked.
Yeah, I'm
Waterfall Ferry.
Hoping, and I don't know if Ham knows the splash deletion, but I'm hoping that Ham goes up to Zora area after this, does that splash deletion to get the Ice Rod, and also just check that area. You can then use that portal to go right to Ice Palace, because that is also open to us now.
It does look like we are getting at least a Palace of Darkness check here, which I can see doing this at this point if you do not know Splash Deletion.
Well, and I would say if Swamp Palace was a pendant, I'd be, fake flippering all the time because I wouldn't want to, necessarily have to find the flippers for progression. But knowing that it's a crystal, we do need to find the flippers at some point to complete this game. So don't disagree, although it seems like Ham is... What is Ham doing?
Checking the back here was maybe the intention, or doing green pendant rather, but we did not collect that one. Maybe Ham thought he did not check back of Saha, but of course he already grabbed his mids, so he had at some point. Can happen sometimes that you thought you didn't do it because you expected something to be somewhere else.
That happens to me with Desert Ledge all the time. I'll check Desert Ledge, and if it's not an important item, I'll immediately forget what it was and immediately forget that I checked it, so I'll have to double check it. Happens more than I'd like to admit.
I think there was slight consideration of checking Graveyard Ledge and King's Tomb here, but without the flippers you would have to do the current jump or do a Splash Deletion to get back to Catfish. So deciding against it and rather just do check Catfish and then probably Zora. We will see though if does know about Splash Deletion here.
Yeah, you can set it up with the bow and the bombs. You shoot 3 arrows into the side of a wall and then place 2 bombs, jump in the water. There's too many sprites. As we find bombos, that's a nice item to find, but as there's too many sprites on the screen, when you jump in the water, from what I understand, the splash animation doesn't happen, and therefore the game just assumes that you're fine, because I guess tied with that splash animation is the check with the flippers or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Key there is definitely being the splash does not happen, so the game acts as if you have flippers. And we are not getting to see a waterfall check here from HamDenBlinde, instead just doing the Zora Ledge check and Zora himself, so yeah, depending on where those flippers are, that ice rod could be a very, very late find here.
Looks like Ham probably now going to do the Skull Woods area and the Graveyard Ledge, King's Tomb kind of checks. Yeah, I understand not wanting to dip pendant dungeons because they're pendant dungeons, but at the same time, there's 8 items between those 2 dungeons that, though it would take some time, 8 items for those checks versus rushing around to grab these. I don't know which one is, me personally, I would tend towards going to the dungeons, especially finding the bow and the hammer already.
Yeah, there is some slight consideration to maybe do Skullwoods first, as it is the green pendant. You just found the fire rod, so you can do it, and you can turn in the green pendant on your way to those 2 pendant dungeons if there are to be nothing in Skullwoods. Also, you can check Graveyard Ledge and the King's Tomb before Skullwoods. So I can see making this decision. Personally, though, I probably would have dipped Palace of Darkness there.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I like to make the wrong plays, but I would do the Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace, then come over to Skullwoods, just so I could blind pull the ped.
Definitely an option that you would have in that case, and yeah, like I said, I would probably have done something similar. So yeah, think I can agree on, or can at least, yeah, I'm missing the word I'm trying to go for, but yeah. Doing the wrong play is also something I do often, so yeah, maybe we're thinking alike there.
Shaki asking, what did you miss? We have had a relatively decent seed. No aggro required. Hammer and bow were both in Hookshot Cave, and that's kind of the big difference right now is that Ham went up to Death Mountain right after finding Titan's Mitts, and TeknoLink has yet to go up there. That's a lot of the difference that we're seeing here in terms of the items and some of the progression.
Yeah. Maybe we have to point out that they first went up the mountain in search of their boots after finding our first glove, and with Hookshot already we could clear out Lightwell Death Mountain, finding the mirror in the course of it, and then doing Hera after it. So that was then the point that led to this difference in decisions after finding those myths. TeknoLink did decide to just straight go up to Village of Outcast, HamDenBlinde, going up the mountain first, found Hammer and all.
Very nice Fire Rod fight by TeknoLink. Having that half magic does make that Mothiel fight a little bit nicer, especially because TeknoLink has not found the sword in Agina's cave yet, so still on Master Sword.
But he did find it. That's why he's on Master Sword. Our third sword was the one on the pyramid that TeknoLink.
Oh, is that what he hasn't checked? I thought that he checked the pyramid one. That is my bad.
Nope. Pyramid one still out of logic for him, and he didn't bother to sequence break over there right now. And
that would make more sense.
Yep. And looks like he is actually heading to Dark Death Mountain now, which will give him Hammer and Bow. Let's see what he decides to do with those.
Amarith making the call or the prediction that Flippers in Turtle Rock, which would be very unkind because we know that the Ice Rod is Flipper locked.
Yep, absolutely possible because 4 out of 5 items in Turtle Rock are accessible to us. We have everything we need to go all the way down to Laser Bridge. In logic already, the only thing out of logic would be that Ice Rod blocked behind the Flippers. That TeknoLink did the water walk to sequence break it. So we will see how that might come into play, as HamDenBlinde apparently forgot to collect in a small key from Skullwoods.
Yeah, very easy to do when you rush to the back if you haven't full cleared the front. Very, very easy just to forget that you need to grab this small key. Gonna grab it right now and progress forward. And as I'm looking at the tracker, it looks like we're really looking just for Flippers and for Flute. Those are our kind of last 2 items that get us into all the dungeons.
Yep.
As TeknoLink finds and is quite upset to find the hammer in Hookshot Cave. Also going to find the bow. So, unfortunately, putting this off does limit the items, but does have them now to progress.
Yep, and I wonder if he just does clear Turtle Rock right here and now, because he has the option to now. He does see its quake and he is opening the portal, so I'd imagine he's just saying, yep, let's go for it. 5 items plus Mimic Cave to grab here.
Yeah, and having blue mail makes the Master Sword Trinex fight a little less scary. That's definitely one that green mail Master Sword Trinex, if you get to that point, is definitely a challenge. So having blue mail will make that a little bit nicer.
On the other side, HamDenBlinde. Defeating Mothula, collecting the green pendant alongside the 20 rupees here. So, first pendant dungeon done. Probably now just heading over towards Palace of Darkness, I'd imagine. Turn that in. Okay. Let's see what Turtle Rock does hold on to.
And I think this is the right play from TeknoLink. You have all the items to clear Turtle Rock. It's a crystal. You have already climbed up the mountain to find, to check Hookshot Cave and all those others. So checking this while you're here just makes sense. So I do think this is the right play. It does have that advantage, being able to check it the first time up the mountain where Ham was not able to.
First 3 checks in Turtle Rock, 2 smokies, a big key. Just dungeon items for now. As HamDenBlinde is indeed heading over to Palace of Darkness, turning in the green pendant on the way.
Yeah, and at this point, I think both of our remaining items could still be on the pedestal, if I'm remembering correctly. I think everything's in logic here, so there's still a possibility that either Flute or Flippers is on that pedestal. So worth clearing these dungeons while you're here, I think.
Yep. Also, an additional item that could be on the pedestal for HamDenBlinde could be that ice rod. We know it isn't, but from the runner's perspective, or from his perspective, that is still an option. As the pedestal is in logic.
The question now becomes, does that mushroom we just found lead to the cape, which leads to... It was the shovel up there? And then that leads to a progression item. That would be very cruel.
It would be very Ambrosia, at least from my experience. Just saying. Also looks like does decide to do Eastern first. It is the faster dungeon, although it has less items.
I really shouldn't make predictions about seeds, because the last time I did, we had a jet seed that unfortunately ended up being Samaria GT locked, and the runners had to run around the whole game to find shovel in pendant pod or maybe it was crystal pod, but it was the back of Palace of Darkness to find Samaria. So I redact all of my previous statements. I don't want to curse anybody.
I think I saw that race and commented in chat very early on about similar options, so yeah. Don't want to do much of those predictions.
Getting a check of Mimic Cave here as Ham finishes going through Eastern. I like going to Eastern first. If you've got the mirror set up, you can check both of them, but Eastern a little bit quicker than Pod, and if you do find the Flippers or the Flute here, maybe that makes it to where you don't have to check Pod. So I'm a fan of checking Eastern first if you haven't checked it yet.
Yeah, I can see the reasoning. Personally, I prefer doing Pod more often because it does tend to have the progression more often. But there are certainly arguments to make for both sides.
And up to now, not really finding anything in Turtle Rock, so not the end of the world, because this is a required dungeon anyway. So by full clearing it and checking it, you're still completing that dungeon you have to do, but probably TeknoLink really hoping to find something here on this roller room or in Laser Bridge.
Well, the roller room has to be a small key. Otherwise he would be locked out. But yeah, Turtle Rock usually has the items on Laser Bridge, at least the important ones. So it's not too unusual, and like you said, in the end it is a crystal dungeon, so even if there were to be nothing here, you just cleared the crystal dungeon, so you still did something you had to do at some point. Second item in Eastern Palace, just being 20 rupees, means we at least get to go to the boss now. But I apparently missed the big key just being vanilla.
Unfortunately, not having that hammer earlier, TeknoLink does not have the blue cane for Turtle Rock here, so we'll have to try to do probably dash strategies to get past the lasers here. They can be pretty difficult if you haven't practiced them.
Yeah, so interesting thing to know about here is probably that if you enter from the safety door and just fall down a pit, the iframes you get from that actually are enough to get you to the first chest here on the left.
And you can do that from the top as well. If you enter through that top door and then fall down the pit, you can get that top right chest. So that will save some time if you get those two chests out of the way. Then you only have to dash past the middle too.
And you may just damage tank them in that case, like TeknoLink does here. Gets tempered sword on, or gets his tempered sword here.
That's a nice item to find right before Trinex.
Yep. And means we have knowledge about all of our 4 swords.
But we do know that there is no flippers. Well, I guess there still could be flippers in this last chest. I spoke too soon.
Well, seeing that we have still no small key, I think that's not a possibility.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. You do need a small key to get past this door here. So yeah, no flippers in Turtle Rock, no flute in Turtle Rock, so...
What? No flute in Turtle Rock yet. The flute is actually possible to be on Trinex.
Oh yeah, that is a good point, because the only thing Trinex can't have is flippers, because that's where the ice rod was. So, do still have that as a possibility. I haven't checked on Ham's side in a second. I don't think we saw anything in Eastern that was really, really game-breaking.
Does not look like our tracker. McMonkey did mark the flippers or the flute from the Eastern play, so yeah. Probably not something we needed there. As TeknoLink does fight Trinex here, having half magic and the tempered sword makes this fight comparatively easy. The equipment you like to have for this fight at least. Second phase there. Just another bottle on Trinex, so no progression in Turtle Rock today. But Turtle Rock was a red crystal, so the flute still has the possibility of being behind the red bomb. That would mean, though, we have to fight the flippers here in pot soon. TeknoLink entering Dark World here. Does he intend to head over to Palace of Darkness?
I would imagine maybe going to the Dark World there to check the pyramid before going into Pod, which will make him somewhat happy to find Buttersword. The only fight that you don't want Buttersword for really is Mothula, but the rest of them are nice to have.
Interesting option that TeknoLink would have at this point were to fake flipper over to Ice Palace and just get that one out of the way. You know that the flippers have to be somewhere, but you have to do Ice Palace anyway at some point, and if the flute were there, you know, or you would know that you only need to find the flippers and then can bail out of the possible dungeon they were to be in.
Yeah, and with Cane of Samaria, Ice Palace is not a huge time commitment. Is going to go up to Catfish and find that Bombos medallion, so that'll be a good find. Have all the medallions, won't have to worry about, is Misery Mire Bombos.
Not giving us much items so far. See what Harmless Hellboy does hold on to. Amen. Okay, so 2 more items here in Dark Maze and big chest. That compass is still missing.
It's looking like TeknoLink might be running up to Eastern Palace instead of staying in the Dark World and running for Pyramid.
Yeah, Dark Maze, no progression, so we're getting to see Helmer talking.
Vortex in the chat bringing up a very good point. With the mushroom and the red cane, we can do fake powder for the bat, which probably is preferred to be done before turning in that mushroom here, since you're able to do it.
True. On the other hand, setting up a fake powder and doing it does cost a bit of time and require the powder to actually be somewhere reachable. So at this point, I wonder if it is really worth it to just go for the fake powder.
It looks like Tekno, after getting that mushroom, has decided gonna follow that breadcrumb and is going to run up and turn in that mushroom before doing any of the Eastern and Pod area.
And while you're at it, you can just restock on potions. And just bombs on the mushroom. So TeknoLink probably debating about what to do, but yeah. Oh, hard resetting. Was it?
I think that's a smart move. You do save that mushroom for fake powder, so well, all he really did was grab the mushroom from the green pendant, so he's gonna, if he heads back over to Pod anyway, he'll grab that mushroom again.
Well, the thing about this though, you do not get the potions that he just bought there because you just resetted them away. So, yeah.
As
The
Ham
others.
defeats Helmasaur, I have to think that with all the time commitment put into this, you want to go over and check Pedestal.
Probably. I mean, your only other option right now, that would be a logic where to do Charge Rock without the Ice Rod, which you not really want to do, if you can help it. And yeah, having invested all the time into the pedestal already, you might as well just follow it through to the end.
Yeah, at this point, Pedestal looking like a pretty good option. I don't know, there's not a ton of checks left for where progression could be. Ice Palace and Swamp are both locked behind Flippers, and Misery Mire and Desert locked behind Flute or Book.
I think we have literally no check left that would... we have one, I believe.
We have Spike Cave. Yeah, that's the only one that I can think of.
But yeah, I mean, you get that bow and hammer pretty close together. You had that lamp very early on. You got a comparatively early fire rod, so the seed kinda really wanted to say, "Yo, here, go do pendant dungeons." So I would be inclined to say, yeah, maybe just follow it to the pedestal. Maybe there actually was a reason to get all these items, especially considering the dependent dungeons turned out to have a whole bunch of nothing.
Ham getting a little bit lost in the woods on the way to Pedestal, but does find it.
And blind pull pad. Is it required?
It is
absolutely is.
Wow, so very, very good routing by Ham. You know, blind pole pet is one of the scariest things because you invested a lot of time, and it's not like those dungeons had anything else to give you. So finding the flute there is a huge sigh of relief.
Yep. And TeknoLink going down back to the big chest in Thieves Town. Fake powder not working out here.
Yeah, Ham now able to do both Misery Mire and Desert Palace. That gives us also the checks. You know, the Mire Shack, the Checkerboard Cave. So we got some checks down there. Still possible that Flippers have been hiding in Spike Cave this whole time, but probably not as likely.
You have 2 checks in Mire, 2 in Mire Shed, Checkerboard Cave, making it 5, and 2 more in Desert, as well as the Desert Ledge. So 8 items that unlocked for you. 7 if you did check the Desert Ledge beforehand. So the chance to get flippers on one of these checks is actually quite high.
Well, and for Ham when he finds the flippers, will probably full clear Ice and Swamp, looking for that Ice Rod. We know where it's at, but he has not checked Waterfall Cave yet, so you know, could end up full clearing dungeons where TeknoLink wouldn't have to.
Yep. Certainly possible. On the other hand, TeknoLink still has to do 2 more pendant dungeons, and hello, flippers! They were just lying here in Desert, so...
With that, we are in no mode. Ham needs to go and get the Ice Rod from Waterfall Cave, and that will be go mode.
Yeah, so I really expect Harm to at least full clear desert, or full clear desert. He saw the one item that isn't on Landmo, so he just grabs the big key and is off to the boss here. But will probably clear Mire to checkerboard. And I'd imagine to do at least Swarm Palace first here. You might be inclined to just skip left side here, as you are one item from Grow Mode away. But I hope he does at least check Waterfall Ferry before heading into Ice Palace, as you are kind of close to the portal. You only have Waterfall Ferry left up in the area, so you can just hop over there for a bit and then hop back into Ice Palace, which would enable him to at least go mode Ice.
And it does look like TeknoLink is grabbing that mushroom again after the saving quit. And then probably going to do Pod and Eastern.
Yeah. Probably.
So unless the book was on Spike Cave, the flute is required to get those flippers, I believe.
Yep. Or if you want to really turn that up, the Cape and Spike Cave to shovel to the book.
Yeah, that would have been that would have been great to watch. But for our knowledge, we don't have to see that. Yeah, it's just a matter of, TeknoLink going through these dungeons. If TeknoLink clears Pod and Eastern, gets the flute, we'll go over and find flippers and be in go mode, and it's all just kind of a matter of how fast does Ham get to that Waterfall Ferry, because TeknoLink will be able to go mode a lot of dungeons once he finds those flippers.
Yep. Although the most likely thing is he will full clear Pod and Eastern first, and especially full clearing Pod does still take quite a bit of time, so yep. Definitely still quite an advantage here for HamDenBlinde. Who just defeated Moldorum to collect another crystal here, while TeknoLink does get to notice he did not have a small key for the vanilla big key chest.
Yeah, for our knowledge, we know that the big key is in the back of Palace of Darkness. So at least that's not the big key, but when you're in the middle of the dungeon, you don't know that, and that can really stress you out. We'll have to see if Tekno decides to backtrack and get that item still, or just leave it to till the very end.
I believe he will get an item here though, and those bombs, and if he does know his Palace of Darkness key logic, he should be able to deduce that it is only a small key up in the vanilla big key chest. And it does look like he knows. Unfortunately, not having magic to use the Samaria block here to flip the switch. HamDenBlinde, on the other hand, already into the lobby of Misery Mire. Of course, still has to head over to the right side to grab a small key first. Taking rich chest and spike chest here. Gets the bugnet in on his very first check, so does now know to only search, or that he has only to search for the big key and can then be done with Misery Mire, because Ambrosia still does have that one item on the boss guaranteed.
DC Sensei in the chat. Yes, Ambrosia will be this week. This is week 3 of the qualifiers, and after week 3, it'll shift over into open. So starting next week, the seeds will be open seeds, and the mentors will be back helping with those. But let's talk for a second as Ham is just looking for a big key. What are your thoughts on these racers kind of routing without their mentors? You know, I think we've seen a couple of things that maybe, you know, on Ham's side, going back up to that big chest in, or basement chest in Hera, and for TeknoLink that save and quit with the mushroom and all of that. But overall, what are your thoughts on their routing of this seed?
Yes, I think especially on Ham's side, aside from that curious timing of checking the Hera Hera tile room chest there, the routing actually was pretty solid. So I think all the decisions he made sense in a way, and it was just the seed not really being kind, which then led to an efficient full clear, basically. So yeah, I think overall the routing decisions definitely at least solid, and yeah, execution on also for the most part looking pretty good.
Yeah, unfortunately, does miss a fire rod shot through the block there, but we'll just reset the room and do it again. As opting to do the cutscene room over, I don't think checked the small chest on the right side of the dungeon yet, so still looking for that big key. It's in one of these 2 chests.
Yeah, so I did not pay attention to the first chest or the first firelock chest. There is a bit of key logic in play in Misery Mire where you can know if the vanilla big key or if the big key is in its vanilla position, if there is a small key on the first firelock chest. And we did find that vanilla big key, so maybe there was actually that knowledge at work. On the other hand, if the big key is not firelocked, then there cannot be a small key firelocked. So if you find an item first and still haven't gotten the big key, you at least know that there is no small key in the cutscene chest. So maybe doing a read there, and yeah, getting that big key chest earlier.
TeknoLink now moving on into Eastern Palace. Looks like gonna do that same kind of route to the flute that Ham did, which beat Eastern Palace and then go check Pedestal. So TeknoLink will be getting his flute here relatively shortly. Ham, after Mire, we'll have to see if Ham chooses to go to that Waterfall Fairy Cave first, or if Ham clears Swamp Palace and Ice Palace before checking those locations.
Swamp Palace with 6 items would be the dungeon that more likely would have the Ice Rod in that case, so I think most people would probably opt to clear Swamp first, or at least clear or do everything of Swamp except left side, because getting to those 2 checks does take comparatively more longer. But first of all, there's this Vitreous fight where HamDenBlinde decides to just pull out that Cane of Burner and then spam sword slashes, which does confuse the game to the point where it does not drain your magic as fast it is supposed to be. So good use of game knowledge there to make that find just a little bit easier for yourself.
It looks like going with swords instead of 8 bow shots. You can have to be careful here. The eye of Vidi, the big eye, actually all the eyes, can be hit by arrows, so a little bit safer, but does get through it. Very well done.
Yeah. What you see from most runner on the Vigilus fight is that is why or a certain way to fight those small eyes. For example, that strat we just saw with the Cane of Burner and then spamming. And then switching to the bow for the second phase and just shoot 8 arrows straight up into the big eye, which is comparatively safe if you just spam your arrows and does get that second phase over without much risk. But in the end, sword strats just worked as well. That is the important one. Got that crystal. Now restocking on potions.
Yeah, I like this.
Mushroom on the way.
I like this choice. You know, Ice Palace and Turtle Rock are probably the 2 dungeons where you're going to need potions the most. So grabbing a potion, you have Flute now. Just grab a couple blue potions and move on with the seed. Good safety choice here.
Definitely a good idea to just get it out of the way right now. You had that additional check with the mushroom. Big decision point now, and it does look like we get to see Ice Palace first, and I really hope he does remember about doing Waterfall Fairy at this point.
And it looks like he's going to check the Lake Hylia Ledge and Hobo. So with some overworld checks, yeah, it does seem likely to go and check Waterfall after this.
Yeah. He does not forget. It really does look like getting an earlier ice rod here. Or an earlier ice rod here, which then would just mean Swamp and Ice Palace go mode. Hobo giving us our single arrow.
Yeah, I found it off that guard that shoots the arrow on top of the bridge must have dropped one. He just picked it up.
Yeah, but without a bow, he probably has not much use for it, so he just gave it to us for our troubles to get to him. Speaking to him. And we do Ice Palace first.
You know, it does make me worry a little bit. It's not impossible, you know, if you're using your tracker when you check the Zora area to just say you've checked everything. If you're using that kind of map viewer, hopefully didn't track that off as something where he's already been.
Yeah. On the other hand, doing an Ice Palace full clear with a Icebreaker still does not cost too much of the time, as most chests are somewhat on the way. So it may not be too bad just now, but TeknoLink did collect that flute now from the pedestal. Is going to activate it and is in go mode as soon as he flutes over to desert and spots those flippers on the ledge.
Yeah, unfortunately for us, or for TeknoLink a little bit, we know big keys are not in spots where it would save a ton of time versus the route that Ham did. We have Firelock Chest and we have over small key locked for the big keys in Desert and Mire, so won't be making up a ton of time there. We'll probably make up some time in Ice and Swamp, but see how much time that really is. And again, Ham really needs to head up to that Waterfall Ferry.
And I can still see him going up to Waterfall Ferry just after Ice Palace. So that time, TeknoLink might make up as maybe just the time he would save here in Ice Palace, not doing a full clear. And like I said, with the Icebreaker, full clear of Ice Palace is actually not that much longer anymore. Though that is only if you do get Icebreaker, which Harm apparently has some troubles to get that clip into the wall first. Too far, I believe.
Yeah, the way I set it
Enough.
up is have, you know, I want my shadow to be just kind of halfway right there, like it is on the screen, halfway between the two. And that's exactly where you want to stand as you press down and right. So it looks like Ham did get that part of the trick. Now let's see if he can position himself correctly with the block.
Yeah, that first or that left move was not a one-frame movement that you could see on the. You could see that on the block, moving too far away from the wall here. And does not look like he got this one. So he's losing quite a bit of time here. Look better. Okay. Did not. But on the other side, TeknoLink.
Grabbing those flippers and got the red nail off of Magic Bat. So in a pretty comfortable position.
And HamDenBlinde still not getting that Icebreaker. Still too far.
Yeah, personally, I'm a fan of using either menu or select buffers to get that 1 pixel to the left kind of movement down. It's real easy to push it a little bit too far, and those menu buffers do help.
Yeah, I personally do a sword buffer for the 1 pixel, 1 frame movement there. I actually do use a menu buffer the first time to help me get that clip onto the wall. Yeah. Still, these 1 frame movements are not that easy, and they are the worst part of the trick. Nope, still not got it. Meanwhile, TeknoLink continuing to gain ground here, already on the way to Lamo. And yeah, there is coming up a point in chat. At this time, you are approaching already having lost more time than Icebreaker would have saved you initially. So maybe there's the point where you just have to decide, okay, I'm not getting Icebreaker today. Maybe I should try to at least get this dungeon done.
Yeah, I mean, your choices in ice to do it quickly are Icebreaker or Ice Palace Bomb Jump, and if you know, you're more comfortable with Icebreaker, you may not want to attempt that Ice Palace Bomb Jump because you know, that one can actually kill you if you aren't comfortable with it. So yeah, just a matter of, you know, at what point is it worth it just to bail on a trick to complete the dungeon by another way or even vanilla.
Looks like he about reached that time where he said, nope, that's enough. Not today. So next question is, are we getting to see a nice Palace Bomb Jump at this point here? we have Somaria and Hookshot, so you would not be forced to do an Ice Palace bomb jump here. Especially having that cane. Although in Ambrosia, one thing about Ambrosia is that Cold Stair never would be Somaria locked, so you would be able to get to both small keys if you wanted.
Unfortunately, the lag there causing the skeletons to not take damage from the bombs.
Yeah, these rooms, since Icebreaker was found, are lesser seen, and those strategies, especially for newer players, are not that often trained. So busting out that knowledge when you have to might not be as easy. See an attempt at the Ice Palace bomb jump. More down. Still too far up. Oh, and that did work, okay. Just
Very
get
well
it done,
done.
that's the important one.
Now here you want to be very careful not to get hit by that fire bar, because that is something that has happened to me plenty of times, and it puts you in a real bad mood.
Yeah, this has happened to me way more often than I would like to admit, and sometimes that happen on only 2 hearts, so you don't even have a retry. Has kind of made me to almost forfeit some of my races.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I have definitely had some of the daily races or races I'm playing on my own where that's the end of the seed for me. But we are seeing Ham going further through the dungeon now. Looks like maybe gonna go a little bit backwards through the dungeon, hoping to find items here so that won't have to check rights.
And over on TeknoLink's Link's side, I did see the small key being there on the first chest on the first firelock chest. So if they knew about the Maya key logic, they would be able to know the fire rod being there in the cutscene chest. So yeah, maybe that was a deliberate check there because they knew they would be rewarded.
Ham getting a little low on health, but did grab blue potions, if I'm remembering correctly. So may want to use one.
Hookshot, unfortunately, in that position does not help you because the iframes do not last long enough for that firebar to pass you in that position. What you could have done in this position were break out burner. Just use that invincibility to get through. Just drink a blue potion instead and waits for one more cycle of the firebar.
Oh, and TeknoLink doing a fake powder to get extra health from an anti-fairy. That was very well done.
That is one of the reasons why I usually like to save scum my mushroom. Because even if fake powder itself does not turn out to be nothing, if I do not find the powder and I have the mushroom, I still can do fake powder or use fake powder to give me a refill in some situations. So yeah, good use of game knowledge there, and of course with the full magic refill there just before you head into the back of Misery Maya, there's even no harm done to just empty your magic beforehand.
And so we are going to see Ham check that right side of Ice Palace. Again, this is all time where TeknoLink would be picking up a lot of time when he does get to Ice Palace, because Ham still has to do Turtle Rock, which TeknoLink has done. And TeknoLink now is kind of right on the heels. TeknoLink in go mode, so doesn't have to do any more checks other than clearing the dungeons.
Yeah, good point. With Turtle Rock already being done, and even in go mode, Turtle Rock does take quite a bit of time. I'd say TeknoLink does have not so small advantage here already. Of course, that would mean for TeknoLink to finish this Vitius fight here first.
Yeah, I wonder if TeknoLink, not remembering, I believe TeknoLink went to the basement of Thieves Town and got that blue cane, so does have it.
Has to be a bit careful here. Is only on 6 arrows. Should be enough, I believe. No? Okay. Thought he did hit the big eye, but apparently not, but was aware of only having 6 arrows. Gets down Vitreous and gets 10 arrows back immediately, which is kind of nice in this situation. But most importantly, gets crystal number 5 and has only in go mode Ice Palace and go mode Swamp Palace to go.
Yeah, I almost wonder if in this situation, you're going over to Ice anyway, you could just walk into Capacity Upgrade and refill your arrows up to 35.
Sure, something you could do. Let's see if TeknoLink decides to. Would have made maybe a little bit more sense before doing Maya, but then you would have to go away from Maya in the first place. And since you still have Swamp and Ice Palace to go, and you don't really need many more arrows than you actually have, unless you do have to fight Ice Armors. Grabbing the arrow refill right now is not strictly necessary.
And Ham finishing up Ice Palace, probably getting a little frustrated that nothing has the Ice Rod. This is when it starts to creep into your mind that maybe it's in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, although you still have a complete Swamp Palace you could clear beforehand, so I would be very surprised to see in Turtle Rock play now, and I really hope Ham does decide to check out Waterfall Berry at this point, which does not look like it. Oh.
And unfortunately, going to go check Swamp Palace instead. This is going to be a big time commitment, as TeknoLink does pull off Icebreakers, so very well done on TeknoLink's side to get that glitch to work.
Yep. And we will see how fast of the dungeon this can be here, TeknoLink's side. Does not even need to hit the switch over there anymore, just needs to grab that small key. He has everything he needs to finish this dungeon. Just check this chest to see if there are some free silvers lying around. Fortunately, not today.
Yeah, and with that, TeknoLink has definitely taken a very solid lead at this point. Being in go mode, won't have to do much of Swamp at all, having already done Turtle Rock. You know, very, very, very quick dungeons, or a very quick dungeon is Swamp Palace without having the whole dungeon to check.
short work of Cold Steel here, making full use of that half magic in combination with the Fire Rod. Collects crystal number 6. The mirror bonk there. Mirrored a little bit too close to that stone and is now doing the refill of the arrows.
Yeah, I like that. You know, you're going to need arrows in Ganon's tower, so get the 35 now. That'll give you plenty for the entire dungeon. Don't have to worry about it. No silvers, but having Butter Sword, probably not too concerned about Ganon. Most of the time, I think the hardest part of Ganon is that Phase 2, and with Butter Sword, only 6 hits needed to get past it, so TeknoLink in a very comfortable spot right here to finish this seed out.
Yep. Let's see if Harm decides to do left side. Does look like it. So losing even more time here. On the other hand, we are apparently getting to see him try at the diver down. Yes, did flood the small key there and is a little bit too late on the bomb explosion to go through. Still too late.
Yeah, for that to work, you have to go when the animation of the explosion is happening, but before it completely finishes, just like that.
Yep.
So we can see TeknoLink now in Swamp as well, but TeknoLink will be going straight to the boss, knows that there's nothing in Swamp Palace that he needs.
Yeah. Only thing that he might want would be the silvers, but needed they are not.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody is gonna full clear Swamp Palace looking for silvers.
At least not with Butter Sword. If you were to have only Master Sword, then maybe. Though you still would probably skip left side in that case.
That was a very well done diver down by Ham. That's not a super free trick to do. There is a very precise kind of input you have to do to get yourself aligned correctly on that rail, and got it relatively quick.
Yep. Although I'd say the movement itself is actually much more intuitive than trying to explain how it works. So, yeah.
Does find silvers, though.
Nice consolation prize here, at least. Although I think I would still prefer ice rods every time over those silvers.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, not having flippers when you go and check that Catfish and Zora area, it's easy to either forget or just, you know, not think it's that important to check the Waterfall Ferry. Especially because it's so commonly done with fake flippers early in the game. You may be thinking in your head, well, I've already done the whole Zora area because you've checked Zora and Catfish, so that's not really one of those things that you think often you leave until last.
Yeah, and also his decision to check Lake Hylia Island and then do Hobo, but not do the waterfall ferry. Yeah. Getting a bit punished here. Although the reason might just still be he just forgot, so...
So with that being the 7th crystal, we are getting our Ganon's Tower Big Key guessing game started. Pick a number between 1 and 22. The person who gets it correct will win. In chat right now, it goes from now until TeknoLink enters Ganon's Tower, so get your checks in. Guesses in, not checks. Sorry, I'm still in the mindset of playing the game.
Well, I mean, we are playing a game. You're probably just having the wrong game in mind. TeknoLink does make a quick pit stop at the witch to refill the potions. You really don't want to run out of potions in GT, then need them. And Argus down für HamDenBlinde. Collecting crystal number 6, but still no ice rod. And at this point, the most likely scenario would for you to say, okay, it's probably just Turtle Rock. Which this time it's not. And yep, as TeknoLink does enter the tower, HamDenBlinde heads over to try and find that ice rod in Turtle Rock itself. Or no, maybe just doing a trip to Spy Cave first, and we get to see the first 2 checks in Ganon's Tower being Powder and Book. Of course, no small key, heading over to the left to grab that small key from the torch and head straight back right. Interesting routing decisions, not something you usually see. To do Hope Room first, then grab a small key and head straight back right.
Yeah, usually it's either Hope Room left or the Dark Magician kind of strategies of going left and then...
Collects another 20 rupees from Spy Cave. And
Is there 4, 5, 6, and 7? Is that right?
yep. 4, 5, 6, and 7. And gets the big key.
And there it is in chest number 6.
Also TeknoLink remembering to grab the small key from back there. As he still needs at least one climbing up the tower if he does not want to rely on chance.
And congrats to Keg in the Closet for guessing 6 and being awarded 17 points on the GT Big Key Go Mode Podcast leaderboard.
TeknoLink having a bit trouble with the second Mimic's room.
Using the blue cane to get back through those spikes. Pretty good idea. I mean, it does lag the game a little bit, but if you're worried about taking damage and you want to conserve your potions, definitely a safety you can do.
Yep. Switching to Fire Rod for the gauntlet.
Yeah, Nobly in chat bringing up a good point. Ham can save the portal because of where the ice rod is for Turtle Rock, but we'll have to see if he remembers to do so.
Yeah. I mean, with that portal save, it really is not that not too much or not too much harm done. Checking Turtle Rock first, but still, it's not optimal. Also, I think I missed the first opportunity to land that fire rod shot.
Buttersword makes quick work of Landmo's too, just 2 hits per worm. As TeknoLink said, upstairs to some of the most satisfying rooms in the game if you can pull them off.
Yeah. If Sumaria was not powerful enough with those newfound glitches, these 2 Westrope rooms always feel great when you have the Cane of Sumaria and you can kill all of the Westropes in one swift movement. Technically not quite going for the full 1 cycle on the Westropes 2 room. Still doing it very fast. It's already through the first torch room. Does avoid the GT despawn.
With Red Mail having 3.5 hearts, not a huge concern. We don't have powder for this next room, but there is a full magic there, so if wanted, he could fake powder again.
We actually have the powder.
Oh, did he find it?
Yep, that was the very first item that we did find in GT.
Ah, I was busy trying to remember how to do the guessing game, so I wasn't watching. I apologize.
No problem, that's why I reminded you. It was in the hope room on the left side, alongside the book being on the right chest. And just the cape to finish out the seed, so you have now all the saves you might want aside from Silver's for the Gan fight.
It does make you wonder what's hiding behind that shovel that's on Bumper Ledge, though.
Well, looking from our tracker, if it's not a shield, then it's probably not something trackable. Slight timing issues on the AK2 fight here. Just get it down. And now there's only the big blue pig left to defeat. TeknoLink does pull out the cape. Combination to the half magic, but with butter sword. There are only 6 slashes needed for each of the first 2 phases. So this should be a very, very quick fight here.
Yeah, and having Cape for Ganon now. Phase 2, super easy.
Does not have Silvers though, so we will get to see at least Silvers Ganon here. And did get the torch glitch. I wasn't sure for a moment, but does nail the timing even with the fire rod. So
yeah, and torch glitch for Silverless Ganon is such a big help.
Definitely. I think with fire, with half magic and the blue potion still left, it would have been strictly necessary to take the Link's position. He would have, or should have had enough magic to even do it without, or with missing the torch glitch, but still. Just having to bother lighting only one torch makes Silverless Ganon so much easier. Fight itself does look very solid. Going there for this cheeky stash in that situation. Where the timing is a little bit tighter to get that. But
That is it.
Ganon down. One more bridge to cross, which is still something you have to be careful about. There are enough players that have fallen before, but TeknoLink doesn't, and finishes this seed in first place with an official race time .gg time of 2 hours, 5 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, GG to TeknoLink. You know, some issues early with Moldorm, but after that, very clean, you know, execution for the rest of the seed.
HamDenBlinde haven't done Turtle Rock as far as it could do. Is now thinking about, okay, where could that ice rod still be? Apparently you really haven't forgot about the waterfall fairy.
Yeah, looking like might check fake powder here.
Well, I believe Ham did actually turn in the mushroom and never saved it, so fake powder wouldn't be an
That's
option.
unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunately, you know, it's real easy to forget that waterfall fairy chest or those 2 chests, because again, when you check Catfish and Zora, you just assume you've already done that because it's so common to fake flipper early in the game to it.
Yeah. And also does show the power of knowing about Splash Deletion, because if you could have done that in that situation to just set up the fake flipper right then and there after Catfish, you wouldn't have checked those 2 checks and would have had the ice rod.
we are joined by TeknoLink. GG.
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 Wow.
Yeah. So, how did it feel to do this race without a mentor and doing this seed?
This seed was strange. That's one thing to say about it. I was the impression that I had already lost when I dropped 3 times out of Moldorm, died twice on blind. And then, well, I just started clearing what I could clear, and then I ran into Ped, and well, I can't resist pulling Ped when I feel so far behind. And, it had something. It didn't have a sandwich this time, but it looked like one.
Yeah, finding the ice rod in that waterfall cave early on is what really did it for you, because being able to clear Turtle Rock that first time and having that ice rod, that's the last item that was kind of on the docket for Ham, and yeah, that pretty much was the decider, is going into that cave early.
Yeah, I was, when I found it, I was like, well, thankfully I don't have to look for ice rod anymore. But I can imagine it's one of those places that, given if you followed the normal progression, you wouldn't have gone there because you could only do Zora. But since I had Water Walk active anyhow, I feel like I went for boots immediately. And if you go for boots before you do Ice Rod Cave with Water Walk active, it's such an easy check. So yeah, it was a race. And I'm very glad the microphone wasn't on for the majority of it.
Well, overall, I mean, the seed was kind of pretty much a full clear of the entire game kind of seed, and still finishing with a 205. It's a pretty good time for a pedestal seed where you had to check, basically full clear Eastern and Pod and all of those. So GG on that, getting that, especially with the Moldorm and blind difficulties, still pulling out a pretty good time for that pedestal seed. So
thanks,
congratulations on the win, and it was a lot of fun for us to watch. We were all just kind of waiting to see where that flute was, and ultimately those flippers were right behind it.
Yeah, that wasn't easy. Well, to be fair, I should have checked, and this is something that my mentor has told me. If you are in desert, at least check the ledge. So I had no clue if I was looking for flippers or for flute. If I knew that I was looking for flute, then a lot of the checks that I made, like if you see the flippers, I could have possibly not considered waterfall ferry because you were looking for something else. But yeah, it was that early. I don't know. I'm a bit how do you say surprised how the seed turned out in the end. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, and at this point, I have to interrupt because HamDenBlinde did actually decide to not finish the seed and instead forfeit, because that ice rod was never to be found anymore. But we have him here, so GG to you.
So, where in the hell did I forget that ice rod?
Well, waterfall cave. So.
Yeah, the ice rod was in Waterfall Ferry.
Oh, forgot Waterfall Ferry.
Yep, you did.
I even went up there. I was going to do it after I did Ice Palace. I was going to do Waterfall Ferry, but I forgot.
Ooh.
Oh my god.
Yeah, your routing early was really good. Going up to Death Mountain super early to find the hammer and the bow unlocked a lot of things for you. Unfortunately, sometimes randomizer likes to do fun things, and this was just one of those seeds.
Yeah, I didn't actually feel the seed was so bad, but I could pretty early on that I could kind of smell this is going to be like a full cleared seed. But that's why I pretty early decided on, okay, this is going to be a pet seed. If I have a chance, it has to be pet. So I just started clearing the pendant dungeons.
Yeah, and that kind of thinking actually did work to your favor for most of the race, as TeknoLink, after having some problems on Moldorm and blind fights, did fall behind quite a bit and going up the mountain early, so you had hammer and bow right away. You did have quite a big lead, aside from not having found that ice rod. So yeah.
Yeah, but it basically ending up full clearing the rest of it. It was probably ended up being the bad thing, and that I spent like 5 minutes in Ice Palace failing on Icebreaker.
Yeah, we were talking about that, about the options to do like menu buffers and things like that, and then ultimately just when a glitch isn't going your way, just moving on. And you went down and did Ice Palace Bomb Jump, and you got that done like in 2 or 3 tries. So that was very well done to do that jump down there.
Yeah, but then thinking about it afterwards, I was like thinking, why did I do it? Considering I'm missing the ice rod, I have to full clear the place anyway. So I actually didn't gain anything from doing the bomb jump.
Still showed you at least do know about it and can pull it off if it were to be necessary. So knowledge still is a good thing to have.
The only thing I was happy about is that I consistently did the dive it down in.
Yeah, I assume you full cleared, because you were looking for ice rod. You full cleared Ice Palace. You full cleared swamp, right?
I full cleared everything. My intention was actually to, after Ice Palace, my intention was actually to go up to do waterfall, to do the waterfall ferry, but because in my opinion, I save a little time by just going so I don't have to go back and forth. But yeah, had I done it first, then I probably wouldn't have gotten a silver seed though.
Yep. It was actually a funny thing. The silver arrows, you did get them on the left side swamp, so at least your diver down there was somewhat rewarded.
Yeah, but I would rather have had the ice rod earlier and just go into go mode, because that would have saved me hell of a lot of time in doing stuff that I didn't need to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even after failing that Somaria, this would have been still maybe close race if you would have done Waterfall Ferry as you had intended to, because you went with quite an head start into ice and swamp there, so you found your flute way earlier. You got earlier to your flipper, so
I really liked my early game routing, and I was so happy until I went into ice and that kind of ruined my mood, that I spent 5 minutes on failing on Icebreaker because my controller simply wouldn't do the 1 pixel movements.
It's always not a good feeling, but you can at least take away from the seat that your routing was indeed very good, very smooth. There was maybe that one decision to go back to check that Hera basement before heading over to Eastern. That was
the bigger problem there. I soft locked on the first try to go to when I went to basement, and I should have just have mirrored out and gone back in. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, going back to check the basement, but I just wanted to make sure that it was nothing there.
Yeah, I can understand it. But like I said, in that situation, maybe after you went for Egina, then going over to Eastern would have been the smarter choice routing wise.
Yeah,
and it
most
would have
likely.
given you your Dark World access. But yeah, I can get behind the idea to just make sure you did not forget anything there.
Yeah, I was just slightly more salty about that when I finally went out, and I was like, why didn't I just mirror and went back in instead of having to do the climb again? But
Those
things, it is what it is.
Those things happen, and you sometimes have to work with them and adjust on the fly. Yeah, I think we did talk enough about the seed. Or if you have something that you want to say, you have now your chance.
I was wondering, so you went to Sahara before going up that mountain, right?
Yeah, I did Sahara, but then I went straight from I didn't even do South Shore before going Death Mountain. I went straight
Yes.
up. I went straight up Death Mountain after doing Kakariko.
Yeah, because I did the same. I found the boots up there, and then I found the mirror as well. But I did,
and after
that's
that,
why I was wondering. Yeah.
But after I did Death Mountain, I went down and did South Shore, and then as far as I remember, I did Saha, and then I went up and did Hera.
Okay.
No, you did Hera before going to Saha, and then you did Agina, and then got back for Hera, and then went for.
I did the combo. I actually did Skullwoods before I did the combo of Easton and. Before I did the combo of Easton, so because I got the green pendant from Skullwoods, and then I went to Easton and did the combo of Easton and Pot, and just YOLO'd it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, you didn't even check. Did you full clear Pot and Eastern, or?
Yeah, I full cleared both dungeons. Okay. But basically, considering there was still an option to go into. We had the early option of going into Turtle Rock. I just no way I was going Turtle Rock, considering I still needed 3 items. So the chances are there's probably one of them on the pad.
Yeah, I went up to. Let's see. I found Ice Dots. I don't know what I did afterwards. I need to rewatch it. At the very least, I went up Death Mountain with Quake. I did Thieves Town. Couldn't clear the bottom chest. Did one check in Skullwoods. Then I think I went up the mountain and found both Fire Rod and Cane of Samaria there. Or was it?
Fire Rod and Cane were in Hype Cave. So the big difference in the race and the routes where Ham did go after the mids, when Ham did go back up the mountain straight away to get his hammer and bow, while you were going Thieves Town first. That route, going to Hype Cave, finding Quake, Fire Rod, and Somaria first, and with you already having the Ice Rod at that point, when you went up the mountain, finally you could straight up full clear Toad Rock.
Yeah, because the hammer was in Hookshot Cave. That was the trick. Yeah, now I remember. That was a very a moment where I was quite annoyed with how the seed was.
You fake flipper to get the. To get the Ice Rod?
No, I water walked.
Oh, no.
Because you have boots, I could direct. Yeah, I could also fake flipper, but if you go to Ice Rod Cave, you can water walk back all the way to Waterfall Ferry.
But yeah, you sequence broke the Ice Rod. Yeah.
I had so much money. I was going to check Sora.
I was thinking about it, but I ended up doing Sora a different way, and I should have when I went up. I still didn't have the flippers when I did the. I checked Catfish, and then I mirrored from Catfish and went up to Sora.
Yeah. So, idea about that is: are you intending to maybe look into learning Splash Deletion now, because that would have helped you quite a bit in that situation doing those checks? And you had quite the variety of tools to achieve a Splash Deletion when you were there.
I could have. I was thinking about when I was doing Ice Rod Cave, I actually was thinking about actually just doing fake flippers, but I got away from it, and yeah, I had several times to check. I had so many opportunities to check that place, and yeah, it ended up just slipping my mind in the end. So yeah, it's kind of is what it is.
Yeah, it all comes down to if it wasn't there, then you would have definitely taken the seat. I mean, it's you have to make a decision and you have to stick with it, and then hope that it works out for you.
Yeah, the only thing I'm salty about right now is that I didn't add when I was thinking about it before. I was really thinking about it when I went to Hobo. I was thinking I need to do that, and yeah, and I forgot to do it. My intention was to do it after Ice Palace. I was thinking about doing it first, actually, but which I probably should have done then. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, GG to both of you guys. Very obviously a tricky seed. It kind of threw some wrenches into the fold there for both of you. GG to both of you. Any last thoughts or anything coming up you want to say?
Not really. Thanks for running this, and thanks for the race.
And that's all I can say. Thanks as well, and GG to Techno.
Thanks to both of you as well for allowing us to watch your race and restream it. That'll kind of put a wrap up here on the match here for this one. Later this afternoon at 8 p.m. Eastern, there is another match scheduled for Restream, so make sure you check that out. Thank you again to McMonkey for tracking, to Amarith for restreaming, and Ralen for commentating with me. Ralen, what are you going to do after this one?
Well, it's getting late over here in Europe, so I probably heading to bed very soon, but yeah, was definitely an interesting race. A lot of fun commentating this. Also, big thanks to you